All right, it's been like months since I've done told a ghost story, and it's been so long that I don't know how to use the app anymore. And I barely knew how to use it then, but we're gonna try today. So it's super rainy in Indiana today. It has a very like dreary, mysterious feel in the air, and I was just like, I gotta tell a ghost story. And I don't have any friends who like ghost stories, so I'm definitely taking applications for a friend who likes ghost stories. So it's just me telling it today. I don't have anyone in the background to tell it to. And I also have to have something in my hands when I talk, so we're using this ancient Apple TV remote today. Okay, ghost story number 5 or 6. This one's called The Ghost in the Corner. And I already did this one on my podcast, but I'm failing at the podcast too because it's a lot of work and my regular job is a lot of work. So I'm just out of time. But I got 3 minutes. I'm going to try to not make a whole bunch of parts. Here's the ghost story. The Ghost in the Corner. Okay, so when I was a kid, we lived in Detroit, and when I was about in like first or second grade, my parents decided to move us to like a suburb area into like a nicer house. And it was like, wow, upgrade city. It's a really nice, older, like historic, that very like Michigan Tudor look brick home. And we were so excited. It was me and my mom and my dad and my older brother and my little brother, who was like, I don't know, he was walking. So if he was 2, then I'm gonna say he was about 2. Then I had to be, let's use fingers. I was about 8. So anyway, we moved into this house, and it was basically like this string of maybe I don't need the remote today. I just use my hands. Uh, it was basically like this string of occurrences. So basically, it was just this odd string of events. It started with the front door being unlocked every morning. So basically, we would go to bed at night and the door would be locked. And the house had like 2 doors. So it had like your main door, which was like the glass kind of, first door, and then a big heavy wooden door after that. And then there was like a small foyer area, and then another door that took you into like the entryway where the staircase was. And the staircase would go up, and then you would turn right, and there was French doors, and that was a dining room. So there was a lot of doors in this entryway. But the main front door of the house, after you opened the glass door, would be unlocked. So that's unlocked from the inside of the house. So basically every morning, and I remember this being like in spring, summer, we would come downstairs like in the morning, wake up as a family, whatever, and the front door, the inside front door would be open. So my parents had like a paper delivered, so like the paper would be inside your little glass door, like at the bottom, but then the main entry door would be open. And my I can remember my dad being like, "Well, I know I locked that door," or my mom being like, "What's going on with that door?" So my dad would like go to the hardware store, change the locks, etc., and the door would be open every morning. It was just the way it was. So the next thing that happened is there was like water pressure problems in the house, which could have been like a city thing, I don't know, but it wasn't an uncommon thing for us to be like downstairs and just the upstairs bathroom, just all the water to turn on at the same time. So that would be the sinks and the tub, just and that happened. Um, I can remember like a very clear memory of that happening and just being like, that's weird. I wouldn't say the house had bad vibes or anything, but I would say it felt like, like there was something going on in the background. And I remember when we would go upstairs you would walk up the stairs and there was like a turn, like a landing, and the staircase would turn. This is a lot of turning. Uh, there was my parents' bedroom was on the right, mine was directly in the front, and then my brother's was down the hall in a bathroom. And in my parents' room, inside the closet, someone had taken like something and scratched it into the inside of their closet door a year, which was 1945. And I thought that was really odd. And then the next part, the ghost in the corner. So this is your build up to the ghost in the corner. So there was a day that I was upstairs with my little brother, and we were sitting on my older brother's bed, and we were playing this game called Kerplunk, which I could go on for a little while about how dangerous that game was. It was literally real marbles and like these sticks. So if anyone doesn't know what this game is, I'm going to take a minute and tell you about it because it's like a choking hazard. So it was like this tube, Okay, so it was like this tube, and you would take these sticks and put them in there, and then the marbles on top, and you would pull the sticks out, and then like the point was for I don't know, the marbles to fall through, but it was called kerplunk. It had more points than that. But anyway, this game, Choking Hazard, I'm playing it with my 2-year-old little brother. So we're sitting on my older brother's bed, and I heard someone walk upstairs and go into my parents' bedroom. Well, my dad was like the king of terrifying you until your heart stopped. He, to this very day, lives for that. He loves to terrify people. They really like Halloween, my parents do. But my dad has just always lived for a good, I'm gonna scare you until you need medical attention type person. So I thought to myself, this is Dad. He's coming upstairs to scare the absolute shit out of me, except I probably didn't cause it as a kid. So I remember saying to my little brother, like, stay right here. Not that he had any comprehension whatsoever. And I walked down the hallway into my parents' room. And I remember walking scared and like being cautious. But when I looked into the room, it was like a sunny day outside. My mom had her windows open. So when you walk into their bedroom, it was like a closet straight ahead with some windows, a bed, and like there are bedside tables. And she had these long, like sheer white curtains. So I remember seeing the wind come through, and it was like billowing these sheer curtains. And I looked over in the corner, and there was like this guy in the corner in the background here. And he was just on the right side of the bed, it's a he in my mind, I don't know what it was, and it was just standing there, like with a sheet, like someone with an actual sheet over their head was just standing there. And I remember just taking off running downstairs, just left my little brother up there with the marbles that he could have choked on, and I just took off running downstairs, and I busted into the kitchen. I had to go through all these doors around the dining room into the kitchen, and I was like, my whole family was down there. My dad was down there, my older brother and my mom. They were all sitting in the kitchen, and they were like, what's going on? And I'm like, there's a ghost upstairs. And nobody even remotely cared what I had to say about this ghost in the corner. But they were like more upset that I had left my little brother upstairs who couldn't walk. So I remember my dad just taking off upstairs to run and go get my little brother. And then me just standing there like, does no one care about this actual ghost that I just saw in the corner? Now, my child memory could be, kind of skewed, but to me it seemed very real. And I'm now older. We're not going to say my age. I'm now significantly older, and this memory is still vivid in my mind of the ghost in the corner. And some would say maybe it was the curtains billowing out to where it looked like a person or something like that, but it was very distinct. And in that moment, I remember like trying to rationalize, like, this is my dad with a sheet over his head, right? So I was like thinking, so yeah, I remember just trying to rationalize, was this my dad standing in the corner? But there was only one staircase up. I didn't pass my dad on the way down. He wasn't running behind me, and my dad was in the kitchen. So it couldn't have been my dad with a sheet over his head. I don't know what it was. But this house did come with like a bizarre backstory. Supposedly it had been owned by a banker who had unalived himself, and that was just sort of the backstory that came with the house. And I never really, so as someone who's experienced, I think, a lot of paranormal events that didn't really make sense, I label them as paranormal or things that were unexplainable. Sometimes there'll be a vibe in a place where I'm like, I can kind of tell if it's, like not who, but kind of like what, whether it be male or female or something like that, or just kind of unidentified in that vibe. And in this house, I didn't really have that feeling of like if it were a man or a woman or just like an unidentified spirit, but it seemed like there was just an awareness in the house, like an energy, maybe poltergeist, I don't know, but maybe the water could fall into that category, like the water blasting on. But the ghost in the corner with the sheet over his head, this is really like what it looks like in my memory. This is the best photo that I could get, except you have to get this back image of a sunny day outside, and it's windy, and the wind is just blowing these sheer curtains all around, while this thing is just stationary in the corner. Now, I wish I could have had like such a deep, I think I just went cross-eyed because I got excited, but I wish that I could remember if it had like feet or things like that, but I mean, I couldn't see, and also I'm young, so my memory was probably not that detailed, but I remember it, and it's still vivid in my mind today. I don't really talk to my parents about it ever. I've put it on the podcast. I think my dad likes that story. But it's not one that we just like actively sit around and talk about. But I remember it busting right into the kitchen and being like, there is a ghost upstairs, and my family being like, we're mad at you because you left your little brother up there, when I was in a fight for survival to get away from this classic presentation of a ghost. So what do you think? Childhood messed up memory that's just imagination based, or real? Who knows?